Actually, right now we know the four elastic constants. One is Young's modulus, one more is the shear modulus, bulk modulus, and Poisson's ratio. Today just I am taking a review of the same thing, means I am revising the same thing as repeatedly is asking. Derive the relationship between Young's modulus, bulk modulus, relationship between the Young's modulus and shear modulus, or relationship between all three constants. Already I have covered it in the last class. Just I will revise it within 5 minutes and we shall go for the next part. Yes, the relationship between the three elastic constants. Young's modulus is nothing but the normal stress by strain. Shear modulus is nothing but the shear stress by shear strain. We are applying a shear stress to a square box, and because of that shear stress, the block will undergo the shear deformation. The DC will go to the new position D dash C dash. As a result of this, the diagonal AC is experiencing the tension and diagonal DB is experiencing the compression. I applied the shear stress on the member. In the direction of the shear stress, there are no changes in the dimensions. In some other directions, there are changes in the dimensions. Particularly diagonal AC is experiencing the tensile strain and diagonal DB is experiencing the compressive strain. I want to establish the relationship between the shear modulus and Young's modulus. Shear modulus is linked with the shear strain and Young's modulus is linked with the linear strain. So these two parameters are to be connected, linear strain and the shear strain. What I am doing is, I am calculating the linear strain in the diagonal AC. I am converting it into the shear strain phi from the geometry, and hence I am getting the required relationship. So I am doing a construction there. I am drawing CC double dash. CC double dash perpendicular to AC dash. Yes, the tensile strain in the diagonal from the geometry. I am focusing on this particular diagonal. This is the new length of the diagonal, AC dash. Original length is AC. Therefore, the linear strain is change in AC divided by original AC. What is the change in AC? AC dash minus AC is the change in AC and original is AC. From that I can get the linear strain as tensile strain equal to change in length of AC divided by original length of AC. That is nothing but AC dash minus AC divided by AC. From the figure, AC dash I can replace it with AC double dash plus C double dash C dash minus AC divided by AC. If you see the figure carefully, AC and AC double dash are approximately same. Therefore, I can cancel the AC with AC double dash, and left out is CC double dash in the numerator and AC in the denominator. Now these dimensions I want to convert in terms of this phi shear strain, which is nothing but tan of phi is equal to CC dash divided by CB dash. means convert these two dimensions into C dash and CB dash, you will get the required relation. Just see here how I am converting. In the triangle C double dash C, this C double dash angle is 90 degree. Therefore, this is 45 and this is 45. Therefore, cos of 45, I can write it as C dash C double dash divided by C dash. Therefore, I will get C double dash C dash equal to cos of 45 into C dash C. In the same way, if I go for this big triangle A, B, C, cos of 45, if I write here, as this is the diagonal, this angle is 45 degree. Therefore, cos of 45 equal to CB divided by AC. B and B dash are coinciding here. From that, I will get AC equal to CB divided by cos of 45. Substitute the values of C double dash C dash and AC in equation 1. You will get the value of epsilon I AC as epsilon I AC is equal to cos of 45 C dash C divided by CB by cos of 45. So if you simplify it, you will get it as C dash C divided by 2CB. But go for C dash C and CB in the triangle. C dash C and CB means tan of this angle equal to C dash C divided by CB. But this angle, we are calling it as the shear strain. Therefore, I am replacing it with, for small angles you may be knowing, tan of phi is approximately equal to phi only, tan of theta is theta only. Therefore, I am going to get epsilon I AC is equal to phi divided by 2. But phi is nothing but the shear strain, that is shear stress divided by shear modulus. Hence, that equation becomes epsilon I AC is equal to Q divided by 2Z. Next, the same shear strain I am calculating based on the state of stress on the diagonal AC. You will come to know what exactly the meaning of this one in the next model, that is stresses on the oblique plane. Right now you need to mug it. Definitely it will be clear to you in the second model. So the state of stress on the diagonal AC is, it is experiencing a tensile stress of magnitude Q and compressive stress of magnitude is equal to Q. Therefore, in its own direction, because of Q, strain is Q by E, and because of this Q, it is minus Q divided by E into Poisson's ratio, but Q itself is negative. Therefore, finally we are going to get epsilon I AC is equal to Q by E, that is, this first term is because of the tensile stress and second term is because of the compressive stress. You know, every stress is accompanied by same kind of strain in the direction of the stress and opposite kind of strain in all directions perpendicular to it. As AC is perpendicular to this compressive Q, therefore here the strain is tensile strain. So this minus and minus will cancel out. You will get epsilon I AC as Q divided by E into 1 plus mu. You are having the two expressions for epsilon I AC. Equate both the expressions, you will get Q by E into 1 plus mu is equal to Q by 2Z. Therefore, E is equal to 2Z into 1 plus mu. This is the relationship between the Young's modulus and the shear modulus. Next, we are going for the relationship between the Young's modulus and bulk modulus. Already we have defined what we mean by the bulk modulus. If a body is subjected to like and equal stresses in three mutually perpendicular directions, then the ratio of that stress by the volumetric strain is known as the bulk modulus. Now I am considering a best example for member subjected to the like and equal stresses in three mutually perpendicular direction is the hydrostatic pressure. Whenever you are immersing any body in the water, that time if the dimensions of the body are negligible, the pressure on all the faces of the body are equal and they are compressive in nature. Yes, the body is subjected to like and equal stresses of magnitude is equal to sigma in all the directions. Now by definition, bulk modulus K is equal to direct stress, that is sigma divided by volumetric strain. I need to calculate the stress in all the three directions, and we know that the volumetric strain is equal to sum of the strains in three mutually perpendicular directions. That I am proving it in the next class. Yes, I am calculating the strain in all the three directions. Like the stress in x direction is sigma, it will give to a strain in x direction equal to sigma by E, and a strain of minus mu into sigma by E minus mu into sigma by E in y and z direction. A stress will lead to the same strain in the direction of the stress x and x. Here the strain is sigma by E. X and y, strain is minus mu into sigma by E. X and z, strain is minus mu into sigma E. Like that, if you are going for the stress in y direction, that is sigma y is equal to y, this sigma y is accompanied by the same kind of strain in y direction, that is sigma by E, and opposite kind of strain in all other directions, x and y minus mu into sigma by E, z and y minus mu into sigma by E. Like that, you are going for sigma z equal to sigma and you are calculating the strain. Now we know that the volumetric strain is strain in three mutually perpendicular directions: strain in x direction, strain in y direction, and strain in z direction. Therefore, I need to take the total of all these terms, which is nothing but the volumetric strain, which is nothing but epsilon x plus epsilon y plus epsilon z. Add them. Yes, sigma by E plus sigma by E plus sigma by E. That is nothing but 3 sigma by E. Now go for the other term, minus mu into sigma by E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Therefore totally 6 mu sigma by E with negative sign. Yes. Now epsilon of E is equal to, take this 3 sigma by E outside, you will left out with 1 minus 2 mu. Now rearrange the terms. sigma is equal to 3, E is equal to 3 sigma by epsilon of E, 1 minus 2 mu. But sigma by epsilon of E is nothing but, by definition, this is the bulk modulus and is denoted by K. Therefore, replace it with the K. You will get the required relation. E is equal to 3K into 1 minus 2 mu. Yes, this is what I covered in the previous class. Just I took the revision of the same thing, as repeatedly is asking it. You need to go through it. This derivation is very easy, but you need to focus on the relationship between E and G. Now, by knowing these two relations, we can arrive the relationship between these three constants E, G and K. How it is? Yes, we know that E is equal to 2G into 1 plus mu, and one more relationship is E is equal to 3K into 1 minus 2 mu. Now eliminate the value of mu from both the equations. How you can do is calculate the value of mu from first equation in terms of E and G and substitute the value of mu in the second equation, so that mu will be eliminated from the equation and you will get the required relation. Just see, from equation 1 you take this E, take 2G on this side, you will get E by 2G. Then bring that 1 also on the other side, you will get it as E by 2G minus 1. Therefore, we got the value of mu in terms of E and G. Next, substitute the value of this mu in second equation. What happens? Yes, just see here, E 3K, the value of mu is first 1 minus 2. Now you write the value of mu in the bracket, that is E by 2G minus 1. Carry the 3K on the other side, therefore it will become E by 3K equal to, what is left out on this side is this 1, this 2 and 2 will cancel with this 1, you are left out with E by G. This minus 2 minus 1 will become plus 2. Is that all right? First you are taking 3K on the other side, it will become E by 3K. Open the bracket, 1 minus, you take this E inside, first term will become 2E by 2G, that is nothing but E by G. Second term, this minus 2 into minus 1 will become plus 1. Now 1 plus 2 equal to 3. You will get E by 3K is equal to 3 minus E by Z. Yes, E by 3K, I have taken this E by Z on this side. So left out here is only 3. E by 3K plus E by Z equal to 3. Now take the LCM. You will get LCM as 3K and G, 3kg. Here 3K is there, multiplied with the G, E into G. Here G is there, multiplied with the 3K, that is 3K into E, right? E is multiplied with 3K. So now you take 3 kg on this side, it will become 9 kg. And take E common from here. What you are going to get? G plus 3k. Therefore, finally it will be 9 kg divided by G plus 3k. In the examination, if he is asking the relationship between the three elastic constants, say at the max for 5 or 6 marks, at that time you need to go for this relation. If he is asking 10 or more than 10 marks, that time you need to start from the beginning. Relationship between E and G, relationship between E and K, then you need to do this one. Here simply rearrangement of the terms here and there to get the required expression, means we are eliminating the value of mu from both the equations to get the required solution. Once again I will repeat the relationship between E, G, K. We know E is equal to 2G into 1 plus mu, E is equal to 3K into 1 minus 2 mu. From first equation, I am calculating the value of mu. Mu is equal to E by 2G minus 1. Substitute this value of mu in the second equation and simplify it. You will get E is equal to 9 kg divided by G plus 3k. Yes, out of these three relations, if anybody has got any doubt, I will wait for 1 minute and I will continue. You can ask the doubt from AGMIT, AGMCR, AGMRCET, my mother college, and JAGMIT. Yes, any doubt, friends? Friends
Sir.
at the beginning? Yes.
ಸರ್ ಅದು 9 kg ಇನ್ನೊಂದ್ಸಲ ಹೇಳಿ ಸರ್, ಅದು ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ರಿಲೇಷನ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ಇ ಜಿ ಕೆ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ಲ.
ಅದೇ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಪೂರ್ತಿನೇ ಅಲ್ಲ.
ಹಾಂ ಸರ್.
ಓಕೆ. E is equal to, we know that E equal to 2Z into 1 plus mu. Already this relation is known to us. One more relation is known to us. E is equal to 3k into 1 minus 2 mu. What we want is relationship between E, G, K. Means we don't want mu here. That is why remove the mu from both the equations, you will get the required relation. The best way I can do is, from first equation you get the value of mu in terms of E and G, and substitute that value of mu in the second equation and simplify it. You will get the required relation. Yes, from first equation what I am doing is, I am calculating the value of mu in terms of E and 2Z, E and G. First what I am doing is, this 2Z I am taking on the other side, it will become E by 2Z. 1 also I am taking on the other side, that is why it is becoming E by 2Z minus 1. This is what the value of mu in terms of E and G. Substitute this value of mu in the second equation. Yes, second equation 3k is there, you are keeping it as it is. 1 is there, keeping as it is. Minus 2, you are keeping as it is. Whatever mu is there, in place of it you are putting this value, that is in the bracket E by 2Z minus 1. Now this 3k is multiplied to this whole term, that is why I can take it on the other side. E by 3k, what is left out here is 1 minus 2 into e by 2z minus 1. Yes, now carry this 2 inside. What you are going to get? Minus 2 is there. First term if you are taking inside, that is minus 2e by 2z. 2 will cancel out, left out is minus e by z. Now you take this minus 2 inside. This minus 2 and minus 1. Minus 2 into minus 1 equal to plus 2. So this e is equal to 1 minus e by z plus 2. This 1 plus 2 will become equal to 3. That I am putting there. E is equal to, this 3k is already outside. 3k is outside. 3k, 3 by e by 3k is equal to e by z, you take it on this side. What you will get? E by 3k plus e by z. That is e by 3k plus e by z. What is left out on this side? 1 plus 2. That is equal to 3. Yes, e by z. E by 3k plus e by z equal to 3. Right? Now you take the LCM of these two terms. One is e by 3k plus one more is e by z. LCM is z into 3k, 3kg. As 3k is there in the denominator, at the top you are multiplying it with the z, and here g is there, you are multiplying it with the 3k. Therefore it will become e into z plus 3e into k divided by 3 kg. Now you take from the left side, you take e common, e is there in both the terms, and take this 3 kg on the other side. First 3 kg when you are taking it on the right side, it will become 9 kg. What is left out on the right side? E into bracket 1 plus 3k. Just see here. You are taking 3 into 3 kg, that is becoming 9 kg. And E you are taking out. What is left out there? G plus 3k. That I am bringing it on this side. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Anything else? Okay. Shall go ahead. Yes. In the previous class, I told that volumetric strain is sum of strains in 3 mutually perpendicular direction. What exactly the meaning of this one? Whenever any member is subjected to a load, if one dimension changes, that is the linear strain, that strain will lead to the change in the other dimensions, that is the lateral strains. They are interlinked with each other. Linear strain and the lateral strain are interlinked with each other, and because of the linear strain and lateral strain, linear dimension and lateral dimensions are changing. When dimensions are changing, the volume is changing. Therefore it appears that there is a relationship between the linear strains, lateral strains and the volumetric strain. When only one load is applied, okay, you can decide which is the linear, which is the lateral or something like that. When n number of loads are applied on the member, for one load, one dimension may be linear dimension, but it will be the lateral dimension for the other load. Like that in the previous class I told, for sigma x, Lx is the linear dimension, Ly and Lz are the lateral dimension. For sigma y, which is the linear dimension? Ly is the linear dimension. Lx and Lz are the lateral dimension. That is why when I am defining the linear and lateral, I took utmost care to clear it. While you are writing in the examination, you can write simply as the linear strain is equal to change in length divided by original length. Lateral strain is equal to change in lateral dimension divided by original lateral dimension. But while solving the problem, you must be very careful. So, right now I want to prove the relationship between the strains in three mutually perpendicular directions. For that, what I am doing is, I am taking a rectangular block is subjected to n number of forces. I am not focusing on what are responsible for the changes in the dimensions of this member. Is subjected to the load. Its original dimensions are L, B, D, and after application of the load, its dimensions are changed. L has changed by del L, B has changed by del B, and D has changed by del D. As a result of it, its volume has also changed. I want to search for, is there any relationship between these strains and the volumetric strain. So how I am starting is considering a rectangular block with the dimensions LBD along X, Y and Z directions. Load may be anything, is subjected to the loading, general term it is. And as a result of this loading, the body will undergo the deformations and its dimensions will change. One dimension may increase, other may decrease. They are undergoing the changes. Increase or decrease, when we are saying plus or minus, we need to say. General term we are using algebraic. Simply we are adding it, it may be positive or negative. Its dimensions are changing by del L, del B and del D. And its, what is the original volume of this block? Original volume of the block is rectangular one, that is why it is L, B, D, L into B into D. After application of the load, changes in dimensions L, B, D, small change, del L, del B means L will change by del L, B will change by del B and D will change by del D. Friends, I am using the general word change. I am not using the word dimensions are increasing, dimensions are decreasing. Increase or decrease is specific one, change is common one. After application of the load, change in the dimensions are L, B, D or del L, del B, del D respectively. Yes, this block after experiencing the load will appear something like this. Now I want to calculate what are the strains in the individual dimensions, what is the volumetric strain, and is there any link between the strains in three mutually perpendicular directions. What I am doing for that one. Due to the changes in dimensions, the change in volume of the block is given by, yes, partial differentiation. Have you studied it? Means change in volume. Volume is a function of LBD. Because of change in length, the volume is changing. Because of change in width, the volume is changing. Because of change in depth, the volume is changing. All together will give you the total change in volume. Like area is constant, the length is increased by 2 mm. What will be the change in volume? Can you guess what it is? Area is constant, length is changed by 2 mm. What will be the change in volume? Area multiplied by 2 mm means BD multiplied by del L will be the change in volume because of the change in length. Like that, we are taking L and D constant and we are assuming B is changing. Then what will be the change in volume? L into D multiplied by B. Like that, L and B I am assuming constant. What will be the change in volume because of change in depth is equal to area is LB, change is del D. That is del D into LB. Therefore, total change in volume is given by S del V is equal to del L into BD plus del B into LD plus del D into LB. Now you divide this whole equation by original volume. Dividing equation 2 by equation 1. Equation 1 is V is equal to LBD. Therefore divide this whole equation by LBD. What you are going to get? Del V by V is equal to del LBD plus del B LD plus del D LB divide by V I am dividing means here I am dividing by LBD. Now go for individual term. Del L BD divided by LBD. What it is? Del L BD divided by LBD. BD will cancel. Left out is del L divided by L. Like that you go for the next term. Del B LD divided by LBD. L and D will cancel. Del B divided by B. Del D LB divided by LBD. LB will cancel out. Del D divided by D. On this side, del V by V. Therefore, finally I am going to get it like this. Del V by V is equal to del L by L plus del B by B plus del D by D. Now what is del V by V? Change in volume divided by original volume. Strain is nothing but change by original. If it is change in volume divided by original volume, it is volumetric strain and is indicated by epsilon of V. This first term is del V by V is nothing but volumetric strain. Second term, go for del L by L. In what direction that L is there, just observe here. L is in this direction. This direction is nothing but the x direction. Therefore, change in the direction of x direction divided by original dimension of x direction will give you the strain in x direction. That is here, strain in x direction. Like that, del B by B is the dimension in y direction. Therefore, it is the strain in y direction. Plus, del D by D is the strain in z direction. Therefore, in general, I can use this particular expression epsilon of V is equal to epsilon of x plus epsilon of y plus epsilon of z. Friends, if epsilon of x is known to you, original length of the member is known to you, can you calculate what is the change in length? It is nothing but epsilon x is equal to del L by L. Therefore, del L is equal to epsilon x into L. Like that. Epsilon of y is known to me, original B is known to me, I can get the change in width, change in depth, I can get the change in volume. This is what our required proof. Volumetric strain is equal to the sum of the strains in three mutually perpendicular directions. So, how I am proving it? First, I am taking a block is subjected to complicated state of stress. What are the loads acting on it? I am not worried. Its original dimensions are LBD. After applying the load, its dimensions are changing by del L, del B, del D. New dimensions are L plus del L. Friends, if in your mind, if L is increasing, B is increasing, D is increasing, how it is possible? Where from you are getting the extra mass is the question. If that is the question, you are right. But here they are changed. They are not increase or decrease. That actually depends on what is happening there. If del L may be positive, value of del B may be negative. It is to be added. Like that you need to remember it. Right? So, a rectangular block, before going for this revision, if at all you are having any particular doubt here, you can ask it. Okay. The original volume of the block is V is equal to L into B into D. After application of the load, the changes in dimensions, L is changing by del L, B is changing by del B, and D is changing by del D. That is why I told L, B, D, B del L, del D, del B respectively. If that is the case, then the change in volume, from mathematics you are writing this equation, partial differentiation that you have studied in maths. Otherwise directly it is just easy to mug it. Because of change in L, BD is to be multiplied. Because of change in B, LD is to be multiplied. Because of change in D, LB is to be multiplied. Therefore, change in volume is equal to del L BD, del B LD, del D LB. So divide the equation 1 by equation 2, means equation 2 is divided with the original volume. Del V by V is equal to equation 2 divided by volume. If you simplify it, you are going to get del B by V is equal to del L by L plus del B by B plus del D by D. Del V by V, change in volume divided by original volume, that is nothing but the volumetric strain. Change in length divided by original length. Length is may not be the linear dimension. That is why I didn't use here the linear or lateral, because it is not subjected to the load only in one direction. It is subjected to the stresses on all the three faces. That is why I am using the general term strain in x direction, strain in y direction, strain in z direction. Therefore, volumetric strain epsilon of V is equal to epsilon of x plus epsilon of y plus epsilon of z. Yes, in connection with the elastic constants, the derivations and this volumetric strain equal to sum of the strains and changes in the dimensions. Lot of numericals is asking on these things. Yes, friends, just within 5-10 minutes we shall see what all we have covered till date. We have defined the stress as resistance by area, strain, change in dimension divided by original dimension, The stress we are categorized into two types. One is the normal, one more is the shear. Normal acting perpendicular to the area, two types, compressive and tensile. Shear acting parallel to the surface. Then Hooke's law, stress is proportional to strain, and that proportionality constant is called Young's modulus in case of the normal stress, and is called as the shear modulus in case of the shear stress. Linear strain definition is strain occurring in the direction of the stress. It is particular for a specific stress. Means for one stress it may be linear, for the other stress it may become the lateral. You must be very careful in connection with that one. And lateral strain, strain in direction perpendicular to the direction of the stress. Poisson's ratio, the ratio of lateral strain to the linear strain is constant, and that ratio is called as the Poisson's ratio. Remember, for a particular stress, lateral strain is opposite to the linear strain. Poisson's ratio is indicated by mu, and sometimes it is written as 1 by m. Even though he gives the value of mu as positive, while substituting you need to take it as negative. He will give only the number. Then we have studied the axial deformation of the member. When a member is subjected to the axial load P, the length of the member is, the axial deformation is given by del L is equal to P into L divided by A into E. Then we have studied the deformation of the tapering bar. Two types of bars we have taken. One is circular one more is rectangular one. Yes, the deformation of circular bar is given by 4PL divided by pi E D1 into D2, where D1 and D2 are the diameters at the ends. If D1 equal to D2, then this problem appears like PL divided by pi square by 4 into D, that is nothing but P into L. Pi square by 4 into D is nothing but A. E is missing here. E is here, okay. Yes, the deformation of tapering rectangular bar. Rectangular bar, thickness is T constant. On one side, the depth is D1, and other side, the depth is D2. We assumed that the D2 is greater than D1. That time, the deformation is given by P into L TE, D2 minus D1, log of D2 by D1. Then, if a member is not prismatic one, is not having the same area throughout its length, is not having the same load throughout its length, loads are changing, areas are changing, materials are changing, at that time, if you want the deformation, what you are doing? You are separating these members into the individual parts for which the load, material, cross-sectional area are constant. Here only important thing is how you are calculating the resistance. How you have calculated it? If you want the resistance anywhere, you are cutting the member there and taking one of the part, marking all the force on that part, and one unknown force you are calling it as the resistance R, and making total equal to 0. You are getting the resistance there. That resistance you are taking as the P1, P2. The rest all are known to you. and that resistance, whether it is compressive or tensile, how you are deciding. It is acting on the body, compressive. It is acting away from the body, tensile. Yes, after that we have studied the elastic constants. Young's modulus, shear modulus, bulk modulus, and we have studied the relationship between the elastic constants. E is equal to 2g into 1 plus mu, E is equal to 3k into 1 minus 2 mu, E is equal to 9 kg divided by 3k plus g. These are the relationship between the elastic constants. We have studied the stress strain curve. In that stress strain curve, how we are calculating the yield stress? It is yield load divided by initial area. How we are calculating the ultimate stress? Ultimate load divided by initial area. Yes, breaking load, when you are calculating breaking stress, that time only you are using the final area. For all the stresses, you are using the initial area. That is to be remembered. For ultimate stress, say the stress at proportional limit, upper yield point, lower yield point. For all those loads, if you want the stress, you are using the initial area. Only the failure stress, you are using the final area. Right? Then percentage increase in length. When tensile force is applied on the member, the length is increasing. Percent increase in length if you want, with respect to the initial length, you need to calculate the percentage increase in length. Final length minus initial length divided by initial length. You want it in percent, that is why you are multiplying it with 100. Like that, the percentage reduction in area, initial area minus final area divided by initial area multiplied by 100. Yes, friends. After that, we are going for the numericals on the elastic constants. So I think it's better to stop it here so that it won't be overloaded.